Hey YouTube, it's Burner Girl here. I just want to jump on for a minute and share an experience that I had myself and my family. And just before I start, I just want to say this video is in no way um, a dig at law enforcement. For those who know me personally, I have a brother that is retired from the Metropolitan Police Department. Um, My father is a military veteran. My husband was a military um, veteran, and so was my father-in-law. Um, just about a big chunk of my family is in law enforcement or has been. But I had an experience. It was very scary for myself and my children. It may have happened, I want to say maybe a month to maybe a month and a half before I even got into 2A. And so yeah, I just wanted to get that out the way just to let you know this is no dig at law enforcement at all. I'm just telling my story. And yeah, just want to know if any of you guys have experienced anything like this. Um please leave it in the comments. But basically, so just imagine I'm home. It's like maybe 5 or 5:30 a.m. And for anybody knows anything about Islam, we wake up to pray. That's our first prayer of the day. It's Salatul Fajr. Anyway, I had just finished praying. During this particular time, I was quarantining because at the fertility clinic where I worked, I contracted COVID from one of my patients. And so, very scary time for me. I stayed in my room. So, I isolated myself from my children for about a week. Tested myself to, make sure my tested myself and my children prior to the incident. My children were negative, even though they were around me, they tested negative. I was the only one positive. And just to give you an idea of the dynamic of my household, it was myself. My husband was at work at this particular time, but it was myself. Um, Let me see. My oldest daughter and her husband, along with their new baby, were living with me at the time. And then I had, I want to say, five other children in my home. So, and they're all my kids. These are my children. I didn't mean to say it like that. But so yeah, family dynamic was huge. And my granddaughter was a newborn at the time. And so basically what happened was right after I prayed, like I said, I wanted to lay back down and rest for a little bit before the sun came up. And I hear this loud boom. And I'm like, what the heck is that? So I get up, throw on my overgarment to make sure I'm covered because I don't know what's going on. As I enter the hallway, there's an armed law enforcement personnel with the AR-15 pointed at me. And I hear others rushing into my house. And I don't know what's going on. I immediately put my hands up. I'm like, listen, do not shoot, please. My children are in here. And so I said, and I have COVID. I can't be, I'm just giving them a heads up. I do have COVID, so that they can take their proper precautions as well. They brought me into the living room. As I'm coming through the hallway, because my bedroom is at the back of the house, but as I'm coming out towards my living room, I see coming up from the basement, they have my son-in-law handcuffed. They had my second oldest son in handcuffs. I think he was only like maybe 16 at the time. And I just immediately get infuriated. I'm like, why are you handcuffing my son? What is going on? And it's like, ma'am, just calm down. Then they start questioning us. So my daughter, they bring her upstairs. She doesn't have her baby. And she's like, my baby's down there. Can I get my baby? They're like, no. Just very rude, aggressive, made us all sit down. And again, I tell them, I am COVID positive. I cannot be in the room with these children. Anywho, they didn't give a damn about that. They made me sit there with my children in the same room and my son-in-law, and we sat there for a while. So then one of the officers comes in. He's like, I said, what is going on? They're like, ma'am, we're going to tell you. First, they asked me, did I know Do we know anybody from a particular name? I didn't know the person's name. So I'm like, no, we don't know this person. And I asked my kids, do y'all know this person? They're like, no. So then they confiscate all of our cell phones. They're like, anybody in here have an iPhone? And so my daughter and her husband said they had iPhones. They gave them over. We all fully cooperated. They checked the iPhones. Of course, theirs weren't the ones they were looking for. They accused us of harboring this person in the house. They're like, well, his cell phone led us here. And I'm just like, what? I'm like, nobody's here. And at the time, my youngest daughter, who is now 12, she might have been like 8 years old at the time. She was asleep in her room in the bunk bed. I don't know how she slept through all of that. But anyway, they were like, who's in the room? And I said, that's my daughter. She's sleeping. So they just went to peek, came back. They went up in my attic. They all up and through my house. Mind you, when they came in, they totally destroyed my front door. So just to give you a picture of what we're going through. And then, so we sat in the living room all this time. It had to be about 2 hours while they tried to figure out where this so-called person was. And then I asked them, do you have a warrant? And they're like, we'll share that with you in a little bit. First of all, we need to find out where this person is, because whatever tracking device they were using showed that he was in the area. And so, mind you, they still got the guns on us. And we just sitting there, and I'm just praying my kids don't get sick, because I'm sick. And so we're sitting there, whole time we're sitting, and this went on for like hours. So then they came back after checking my daughter and my son-in-law's iPhone, and they were like, no, these aren't the phones. So they asked anybody else, do you have a cell phone? So we gave our phones over. Everybody else had Android. So clearly these aren't the phones that they're looking for. But anyway, we gave them our phones just so they can go through it and check, do whatever it is they had to do, so we can just cooperate and get them on their way. So after that took place, they went in the backyard. They were looking around, trying to find whoever it was they were looking for. And then the lady, turns out it was the ATF. That's the part I forgot. Turns out it was the ATF. They were looking for this guy. And the lady that was with them, she showed me the warrant. The warrant had a DC address. Now, I live in Prince George's County, Maryland. But a DC address, usually warrant has the color of the house, description of the house, the person they're looking for, their physical description, all of that. So I'm like, DC, why the hell are y'all here? You know what I mean? It just didn't make sense. And so they're like, no, we're going off of, they tracking this person's iPhone. I'm like, okay, whatever. So we sit in there. So after they left, after checking the Android phones, they come back and they're like, you sure you don't know so-and-so? No, sir, we do not know this person. And then they had the nerve to threaten us and say, well, if we find out that you're lying, X, Y, Z. And I'm just like, whatever. So I'm just pissed off right now, because now at this point you violating our rights by even being here. And so after a little while, they ended up going outside, maybe, and by this time it's around 9 o'clock, 9:30-ish. They come back with PG County police. So they're blocking both ends of the streets where I live. Turns out the idiot they're looking for has a gun. He's next door. So they come knock back on my door. We want everybody to take cover. So now not only we were in a more spacious area, the living room, dining room area. Now they want us to go in the basement and all be in the same space. So we're even in closer contact. So I'm even worried more, not only now because I could pass COVID to somebody, but my newborn granddaughter is in that same space and they want us all in the same area together. So I went in the laundry room, which is like right next to where the children were, just to try to separate myself as much as I could within, what they required from us. But anyway, after that happened, I hear PG County on the bullhorn telling the whole neighborhood, take cover, so nobody gets hurt in case that fool started shooting. Long story short, turns out the idiot was in the house next door to me. And then I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. So he's in there with the gun. And it took it literally took hours for them to get this guy and I guess take him into custody, whatever it is they had to do. But it was traumatizing for one, my children, because they've never experienced anything like that. I haven't either. I was really angry, and it just pisses me off that, one, they busted my door down. My door was at that time I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I have a business, but just because you're a business owner don't mean you rich. You don't have money. A lot of people think because I have this company, I got money, I'm well off. No, I have 8 children. Okay. And it's just I don't have it like that. So I literally went 2 weeks with my door damaged. The only thing we could do is pull the door to, because it wouldn't lock. The hinges were broke. The lock was broke. It took me 2 weeks to pay a locksmith to come out, change my locks, and try to repair what was left of my door. And it just angered me because I'm like, you came, destroyed my house, and then you get to go home and lock your doors. Whereas I don't have that luxury. And so it just did something to me. It just really made me have a lot of distrust for law enforcement. And like I said, this is no dig at law enforcement, ATF, anybody that's doing their jobs as they should, and and not violating others. I was violated, my family was violated. And as I even hear myself speaking about it, it's really just pissing me off all over again. So that brings me to the question, do law enforcement have too much power? Because at times it seems like, they do what they want to do. And a lot of times they get away with it, and we hear stories all the time about how the police went into somebody's house and mistakenly killed somebody. I could have easily been Breonna Taylor. That's what I think about. And it's just like, how many other people have gone through that? And, it's just disheartening. It's not a good thing. It's not a good space to be in. And so I don't know. I just want to know, YouTube family, has anybody had any negative interaction with law enforcement? How did that make you feel? Did it change how you looked at law enforcement? And I'm going to be a law-abiding citizen all day long. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go against anything that I'm not supposed to. Like, I'm going to comply. I'm going to do what I'm told, but at the same time, come on. Some of these law enforcement people, they doing too much. And it's really sad because, it affects, the people that's out here trying to do the right thing. But anyway, I just wanted to hop on here and talk about that really quickly. Please let me know if you had that experience. And how did you handle it? How did your family cope through that time in that moment? I did get an attorney, to look into the situation. We ended up having to settle just because it was a situation where it was a 40-60% chance that we could go to court and not get anything. And so I was just like, well, okay, we'll just settle. Just my thing was it wasn't really about money. It was just the fact that, they need to be taught, just because you have authority to do certain things, you can't violate other people in the process. And that was really unacceptable. And just let me know what you guys think. And please like, comment, subscribe, share. I appreciate you all. And thank you for watching. Salute.